It's about the view. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Here, let's look at this political oddity. It really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. How can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest.
Sonny Hostin just learned the hard way. Trying to spar with Gutfeld armed with nothing but a butter knife? Yeah, not the smartest move. Greg and Kat Timpf absolutely tag teamed her into what looked like a televised emotional breakdown. It was brutal, man. Like textbook level brutal. If there's ever a course on how sarcasm can push someone to the edge, this clips the syllabus. What exactly did they say to rattle her like that? And why did it hit so hard? Bro, it got so awkward. Even Joy Behar looked like she wanted to slide off the set and pretend she'd never met Sonny. This wasn't just a roast. It was a masterclass in verbal demolition. Let's break down the wreckage.
It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys.
The show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines.
Sonny Hostin was coasting through what looked like a regular week, or at least as regular as it gets when your day job involves sitting at a national TV desk acting like every word you say is law. The View was humming along, all smiles and fake nods, kind of like one of those group projects where everyone pretends to play nice, but is secretly side-eyeing each other the whole time. And then, boom, out of nowhere, the storm hit.
Some news, the feral monsters of The View say they've never heard of you-know-who. True, the show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs.
And this wasn't just any blow-up. It was a full-blown Category 5 of sarcasm, mockery, and pure chaos, straight out of the Gutfeld universe, where smug is basically the uniform and the main language is sharp-edged ridicule. This wasn't a debate. No heated back and forth, no dramatic on-air face-off between hosts. None of that. What made it worse? Sonny Hostin got absolutely torched, and she didn't even have to be in the room for it to happen.
Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is.
It was a surgical strike of satire, a total drive-by takedown, pulled off flawlessly by Kat Timpf and Greg Gutfeld, who clearly had Sonny in their sights and thought, yep, this is the week she gets flattened on live TV. Kat swooped in, like a stealth bomber made of sarcasm, dropping punchlines with that trademark giggle, while Gutfeld played ringleader, turning the whole thing into a public dissection of what he sees as the overly fragile, self-righteous bubble of daytime TV. And yeah, Sonny was front and center as the prime example.
I just want to hit myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. She's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the poors. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart, and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to hit my...
Let's get one thing straight. Sunny didn't shed tears on camera, no breakdown, no Kleenex moment, nothing like that. But the unraveling, oh, it was real and honestly way more entertaining. It was the kind of slow motion spiral where the person doesn't even clock what's happening, but you can see the cracks forming in real time. That polished, confident facade. It started slipping one shaky line at a time. The passive-aggressive smile lost the aggressive. The talking points that once hit hard now landed soft, like tossing pillows at a brick wall. Because here's the truth, yeah, you can prep for debates, even brace yourself for some heat. But there's no preparing for becoming the punchline of a network you've spent years pretending didn't exist. That's the kind of blindside that makes the whole stage shake. And this wasn't just a roast, it was a full-on deconstruction of her persona. Sunny's whole media vibe feels like a dramatic courtroom character who somehow wandered into a stand-up set. She brings the weighty tone, the dramatic pauses, the moral fire, and that plays well with a daytime crowd. But when that same delivery gets flipped into comedy by pros who turn irony into an art form, suddenly her gravitas reads like bad acting. The pauses get clipped into memes, and that righteous fire, it's just another setup for the next punchline.
Were you pretty surprised that they didn't know what this show was?
No, I'm also not surprised that there's one part of the video from the show yesterday that you left out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can we roll that, please?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that?
Yes.
Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this, his show should be called Cat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
Somebody's flirting with little cat over here.
Well, she's the Republican one at the table, but I just think as a libertarian, I'm always looking to find common ground with other people because nobody really shares my politics. So I find some common ground in The View where she thinks I'm funny and I agree.
What made this roast hit even harder was that Cat Timpf didn't need to raise her voice, get angry, or even break a sweat. Just a smirk and a laugh that basically screamed, "Oh honey, bless your heart," with the force of a verbal slap in slow motion. She flipped Sunny's on-air statements into something so ridiculous it made you question if anyone on The View has ever actually stepped outside their own echo chamber. And Gutfeld, the guy was in full ringleader mode, turning the whole thing into more than just a skit. It was a roast to remember. He had that look, like a cat that just knocked your grandma's ashes off the shelf and enjoyed it. He lined up the difference between his crew's sharp-edged humor and the overly serious tone of daytime TV like it was target practice. And Sunny, she never even touched the ball, just kept getting hit with it over and over, trying to smile. Through the sting while quietly checking for damage. But honestly, the real punchline came after, in the silence. No clapbacks, no Twitter threads, no cryptic quotes on Instagram. Just nothing. And that quiet, it said more than any comeback ever could.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
It was like watching the teacher who always acts like she's got all the answers suddenly start second-guessing herself, checking her notes a little too often. You could feel the shift, like something had rattled her. And here's the thing. A roast usually ends when the jokes do, but with Sunny, the unraveling kept going. Not through her words, but her whole vibe. Her speeches started getting longer. That calm, confident tone started edging into something way more defensive, almost frantic. You could sense this quiet scramble to reassert how smart she is. Kind of like someone getting caught dropping irregardless at a Mensa meeting and trying to play it off. Meanwhile, the internet lit up. TikTok had her facial expressions dancing like animated emojis. Twitter turned her reactions into endless GIFs. And YouTube, full-on analysis mode, breaking down her tonal shift like it was the Zapruder film. Her fans acted like nothing happened, but everyone else saw it for what it was. Because when you get roasted on national TV by people who don't even bother to show up, that sticks. This wasn't just a hit on Sunny, it was a precision takedown of The View's entire energy, the moral posturing, the elitist tone, that unshakable belief that everything said at that table is absolute truth and disagreeing with it is basically a crime.
Musk's 4-year-old was mocked by The View over his name, prompting Musk's child to exclaim, "Daddy, I didn't know hippos could talk." Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Tim and Gutfeld didn't just shut down Sunny's argument, they leveled the whole platform she was standing on, and they did it with a smirk and a punchline. It's not that Sunny isn't sharp, she absolutely is, and that's what made it sting more, because when someone intelligent falls face first into their own ego, it's brutal and hilarious all at once. She walked in thinking sincerity would protect her, but satire doesn't play by those rules. Sarcasm chews up sincerity out and goes back for seconds. And while the Gutfeld crew had already moved on, probably setting their sights on the next overly serious media persona to roast, Sunny was stuck playing it cool, sipping coffee at that table like the house wasn't already on fire. It was like watching someone calmly fluff throw pillows while a raccoon is trashing the kitchen behind them. What really made the whole thing so wild wasn't just the comedy, it was the reveal, the exposure. For years, The View has thrived inside this echo chamber of applause and moral high ground, like a VIP lounge where outrage is the entry fee. But this time, someone crashed the set, flipped the snack table, and walked out with the good champagne.
Ah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
No response was needed, and that was the whole point. Kat and Greg didn't have to fire back because the laughter said everything, and the silence that followed, that was the mic drop. Sunny trying to push through, pretending she wasn't fazed, only made it more obvious, because nothing screams "I'm rattled" like someone overcompensating to look calm. And while her fans rushed to defend her with hashtags and polished think pieces, the rest of the world was just sitting back enjoying the show. See, when someone builds their whole identity on being composed and in control, watching that slip, even for a second, is oddly satisfying. It's like watching a swan try to glide after tripping on a banana peel. That's the magic of comedy. It doesn't care about credentials, job titles, or moral grandstanding. It only cares about how absurd a moment is. And in that moment, Sunny became pure comedy, not because she was silly, but because she took herself too seriously to see how silly it looked. Sure, The View will carry on, the coffee mugs will keep clinking, the prepped one-liners will keep flowing, and Sunny will still play moral compass at the table. But something shifted. A tiny fracture showed up in that carefully polished image. And with every replay of that roast, every new meme that pops up, that crack keeps spreading just a little more.
Brains are small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
They didn't even have to say her name, and that's what made it hit so hard. Gutfeld and Timpf basically held up a mirror, coated it in sarcasm, and Sunny sprinted across the room to swing at her own reflection. That's when you know you've completely lost the thread. When someone throws shade vaguely in the air and you jump up like, "How dare you?" as if the whole room was already thinking it was about you. That's not a defense, that's an accidental confession. Kat, with her signature mix of deadpan and devil-may-care delivery, dropped a roast so broad in scope but laser-targeted in tone, only someone feeling guilty could have taken it personally. And that's exactly what Sunny did. She didn't get dragged into the fire. She cannonballed in like it was her moment to shine, arms wide, yelling, "I'll have my publicist call you." Meanwhile, Gutfeld was just laughing, like a guy watching improv theater where the actor doesn't realize they're the joke. That's what made it so perfect. They didn't need to cite facts or drop names. All it took was a tone, a sarcastic, half academic, half frat party kind of tone, and Sunny unraveled like a cat trapped in a yarn explosion. Honestly, she did most of the work. Gutfeld could have been reading IKEA manuals out loud, and somehow she still would have taken it as a personal attack on her moral high ground.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist.
That's how you know it's over. Not when the other side fires back, but when they start defending themselves against shots that were never actually fired. Sunny basically stormed out of a party she was never invited to, then called the cops, because the vibe felt off. It takes a special kind of flair to lose a fight that didn't even happen, but she pulled it off, with all the dramatic pauses and furrowed brows to match. Meanwhile, the real winners, the viewers, watching a media figure unravel over a roast that wasn't even aimed at her was better than any Netflix binge. It felt like reality TV and Succession had a messy, overly emotional baby, and we all got front row seats. Not because it was deep or dignified, but because watching someone's ego try to box with sarcasm and get body slammed by their own self-importance is pure entertainment. That's the thing. When egos step into the ring, with comedy, they never walk out with dignity, just a pile of memes and overly serious sound bites that are begging for a remix. Not because Sunny isn't strong, but because comedy doesn't ask for permission. It just waits for the right moment. And Kat and Greg, their timing was flawless. They didn't even need a knockout line. They let the silence and reactions handle, plus the aftermath. So now, while Sunny delivers her next perfectly worded monologue with polished poise, somewhere Kat's probably sipping a martini and laughing, while Greg's jotting down new material with Sunny's face still pinned on the dartboard. Not out of spite, but because satire thrives on people who pretend they're untouchable. And Sunny? She'll keep the polished act going, keep the voice steady, but the audience has seen behind the curtain now, and once you've watched the wizard fumble with the fog machine, it's hard to pretend the magic's still real. In the end, the most powerful message wasn't said out loud. It came dressed in sarcasm, served with a side of mockery, and for Sunny, the real burn wasn't getting roasted. It was realizing the roast ended, and she's still in the oven.